Welcome back to the Headbangers podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today, we're doing a review. The band that me and Nathan have held very dearly in our hearts for a long time, which is Fit for an Autopsy. If you don't know much about Fit for an Autopsy, they're from New Jersey. They're a deathcore band, or at least they once was. Nowadays, they're going for a bit more of a gloomy and darkened turn. Nathan, do you want to take me through like what were you thinking before going into this? Because obviously, Sea of Tragic Beasts. I don't know if it's one of your favorite albums, but I know that you hold it up very daily as well.
I was like, I think when I heard that they were doing it, like to be honest, like when the first few tracks came out, I didn't really like him as much as I liked some of their older stuff, if I'm honest. But I was still like, yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what the album sort of does in that. But a lot of them didn't really pique my interest until they really released Far From Heaven. That's when I kind of started getting early hype for it and everything like that. But for the most part, they want like a lot of hype. I was just hoping that it would be as good or just as good as a Sea of Tragic Beast, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think, to be honest, I was very apprehensive going into this because back, in 2019, I mean, we talked about a lot of these albums when they came out because it's when we were just starting the podcast. But that was a fucking extremely good year for deathcore bands, when they're all sort of branching out, doing different things. You had That As Murder with Human Target. You had fucking Whitechapel releasing The Valley. Like, this was a very, very interesting term for these bands that were considered the legends of deathcore. And yet here they are, all of them just trying these new avenues, and it all worked very successfully. So the new album is called What the Future Holds. So this is obviously the follow-up to Sea of Tragic Beasts. A lot to obviously hold up to there. So let's jump right in. Opening track, which is the title track. I thought this is like very interesting. They're starting off with like very mellow piano pieces. You can tell it's going to obviously transpire into something a bit heavier, and it does. But I think the opening riff, absolutely crushing. It's got the Fit for an Autopsy's DNA right down to the T. Not too many lyrics, but keeping on repeating, what the future holds. I think that really adds like a dramatic element to obviously what the lyrical themes that will follow, which is humanity driving their own extinction. So yeah, I thought that was a fucking great way to start off the album.
Yeah, so like off What the Future Holds for me, I mean, I feel like it does really build up really well to like sort of the end. The actual build up sections I think are really good. The actual slow section is really good as well. And then obviously the main bit that sort of kicks in, I really enjoyed that. I mean, but the only critique I've kind of got for this song is that I feel like there's a lot more as a title track. I don't think it does its job as a title track. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it gets you. I don't think when you listen to it, you go, that's why that's the title track. Do you know what I mean? Like, whenever I listen to like an album, I always kind of, whenever the title track kind of comes on, you go, well, that's why. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it's clearly the best song. But for me, I don't feel like this song's the best song from the album. I feel like there's quite a few songs that are a lot better. That I feel like if that was the title track, it would have been would have fit a little bit better as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite an interesting choice to put your title track first as well. The title track usually comes in about 3-4 songs in. And it usually is sort of the most encompassing part. But if you could say, the whole concept of it being about humanity's extinction, it almost like gives you a bit of a teaser to the album, because I feel like there's a lot of like sad emotions, but also like angry emotions, like just kind of just about the state of the world and like how things are going. So I think it kind of represents that in a way. Obviously, after that, you get into Pandora, which was one of the singles released. Now, I was on the same board as you when I first listened to it. I thought, I'm not really too impressed. Like, for some reason, it just didn't stick with me. But then after my second listen and listen to it and like, how it places in the album, I can see this evolution from Fit for an Autopsy, where whatever they did on Sea of Tragic Beasts, like they aged like a fine wine, and they're slowly starting to see that this is their sound now. There's some great drum patterns. Everything's very much in sync with each other. Like they know how to play as a band, and it's not just like every musician just doing what they wanted and hoping that the track will come together in the end. Like it feels like everything is a calculated effort.
Yeah, like for me as well. Like when this song first released, I'm not, I feel like we're both sort of in the same boat as I didn't really listen to this song. I didn't really feel like a lot of hype because it's not really. I don't think it's like one of those ones that really like gets you pumped for the album. I think it fits well within the album that it's in. I don't think it fit well as like your first sort of impression of the album. I've got to say though, in that entire song, I think the chorus is easily the best bit with the screech, like the sort of screaming vocals. That I feel like every part very much plays off each other really well, and it comes off very melodic and very catchy, which is what I like. That chorus alone sort of really improves the track. And really fits the actual tone of the album as well.
Yeah, definitely. I do have to agree with what you said. I don't think that this should have been a single. I think compared to some of the other tracks that came out, I felt like some of them just go a lot harder. Some of them are a lot better written. But as like I said, as an album piece, and I could listen to this as a single now and enjoy it. But I do think that some songs and tracks to come definitely represent this album a lot better. As you mentioned before, there's Far From Heaven, and that was another single release with a video. Very good video, very good visuals. But I'm just so impressed with Joe's vocal ability. I know that he touched on Sea of Tragic Beasts, and he was sort of trying the whole like sing scream technique, but I feel like in this one he does some like full on cleans. It's definitely some of the later tracks, but you can see in this track alone, like how much he's improved since like the early releases, and just a lot of effort going into making sure that he can emphasize every word. So you're not sitting there for ages working out what he's saying, like right off the bat that he's emphasizing every single note.
Yeah, so I feel like Far From Heaven for me is the best song in the album.
Yeah,
like in my own opinion, I feel like it's the best song in the album by far. Like the harmonic, melodic, and it's harmonic, melodic, and crushing. All again, it's one of those things like sort of what I touched on with Pandora. All elements sort of feed within each other. Like you said as well, with Joe's vocals, they are really good in this track. But I do think there's another track that it does shine better in, and that's conveniently a little bit further on in the album. But the actual breakdown as well, I feel like the entire song sort of builds up throughout it all, and then when the actual end breakdown hits, I feel like it's a lot more impactful because of that. I honestly, I think this is the one song that I constantly probably will return to out the entire album, because I feel like it's the best one in the entire album.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to get into, if we skip a bit further along, one track that I really loved was Two Towers. I feel like it reminds me a bit like Mirrors in Sea of Tragic Beasts, but it definitely has a different sort of feel to it. Obviously, we were obviously known for the deathcore, and those elements always come into play every so often, as they should. But the whole album is a very dark and gloomy tone. It's definitely further away from that style as we go along, and they're seeing more of a death metal outfit now. But this song just like really just sets you in a bit of a trance like throughout it. And then obviously kicks you in the teeth when it actually kicks in. It just feels like a real journey going through this song, and a very interesting direction for them to keep on trying to play with.
Yeah, I mean, I marked down Two Towers as well because that was obviously I mentioned that I feel like there was a song where Joe had a better vocal performance, and I feel like Twin Towers was the one. I feel like the Twin Towers is not Twin Towers, Two Towers.
Two Towers, yeah.
Jeez, yeah, Two Towers. I was thinking Lord. I think you know what? I can't not think about Lord of the Rings when I say that name of the song.
That's Two Towers as well, mate. You're thinking of something else.
No. That's what I'm saying. Though I'm like I can't not think of of Lord of the Rings with the Two Towers. But I tell you what, if only who was it that played Saruman? Christopher Lee.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was in a metal band. You know, if only Fit for an Autopsy could have got a feature from him.
that'll be pretty dope.
Well, he's sadly passed away, didn't he? Like a couple of years ago,
No,
didn't he?
no,
But
yeah, it would
like,
have been
if he
dope
was
though.
still alive, I reckon it would have been pretty dope to have him in a song called Two Towers. Anyway, I feel like Joe's vocal performance of this is in this song is
Yeah,
better, is the best in the whole album. I mean, there's a lot of sections where he's kind of doing the scream cleans, but he's not only that, he's also doing quite death metal like lows, especially in that bit. It's like it goes dun dun dun. It's like his vocal line fits that pattern, which is something. It's just something I didn't really see much of. I feel like this entire album has a lot of, you know, the echoing screams,
yeah,
whereas not as like the short like bursts. So when that was in the actual track, when that actually popped up in Two Towers, I feel like that was like a very I mean, it got me excited.
yeah,
I think Two Towers is probably one of the best songs in the album as well. I feel like Far From Heaven, Two Towers, and Collateral Damage are my three favorites, to be honest.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, as we move forward to like the second half of the album, I feel like this is where they kind of show, you know, there's a lot of new deathcore bands, you know, and they're doing great, you know, Slaughter to Prevail, on Shore. But I feel like Fit for an Autopsy had like made a statement with the second half, just saying like, yeah, we've still got it, you know, we are still one of the kings of deathcore, because it's just absolutely incredible. But also I happen to notice there's a few tech death elements in the later part of the album, like just again how calculated the chaos is. You've got songs like A Higher Level of Hate, which is probably my favorite track on the album. It starts off with the tribal drumming, and then there's just an absolute entourage of riffs after that. I think it just absolutely pops off. And so there's a lot of, you know, songs after this, but the riffs in this, fucking hell, just absolutely gut wrenching, man.
Definitely, I feel like that it's such a crushing song. I feel like the second half definitely has a lot more oomph to it than the
Yeah,
first. For me, I think the standout of that. Can you hear the TV, by the way?
a bit, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Collateral Damage is the one that highlights the most for me. From that second half, mainly because I get a very Swedish death metal vibe from like a lot of the riffs that they use,
yeah, I
and
see that.
I'm a sucker for Swedish death metal. It's definitely the most melodic song. And then one thing that I also really liked is like, remember last year when I can't remember what we were talking about, but I said that 2021 was the year that the guitar solo comes back in force. I feel like Fit for an Autopsy heard that and went, you know what, 2022 is also the year that this shit's gonna
Yeah,
carry on. And like that guitar solo and that was also very refreshing. Like it was something that we didn't really get before in the first half. We didn't really get, but from early snippets of the second half, we didn't really get that much. But when a good guitar solo sort of comes out and it's written well, that's when you kind of like appreciate it. Like everyone kind of overused it, but now that we're seeing a sort of little comeback of it, I'm like, you know what, this shit was pretty good. Like,
yeah, no, I've noticed that in one of the tracks, like the soloing is really good. Like I was never a fan of solos because I always felt like it's sometimes just a bit of a wank off, and you know it just doesn't sound like melodic or anything like that. But with this song, and in other parts and sections of the album, I feel like they really do it well. You know, it feels like a solo was meant to be there. It kind of carries the song forward. It's not just like a section that I felt didn't need to be there. So absolutely. You obviously get towards the end of the album as well, which is, you know, fucking incredible. I feel like it starts sort of how it started at the beginning of the album. It's very sort of somber, dark, but still making a statement. And then it builds into obviously the chaos again. So I feel like they just know how to do it right to have both these elements, two sides of Fit for an Autopsy, and play them off each other. And I think it's definitely, like I said, it fits the theme of the album that it's meant to be sad, emotional, but also angry about everything in the state of it.
Definitely, I feel like the entire album has a really good synergy throughout.
Yeah.
Um, like it was definitely it definitely well thought out. Writing it. What do you sort of think of the album overall then?
So overall, I think obviously Fit for an Autopsy, they've made their place in deathcore. Like a lot of people know who they are and respect them. I feel like this is an evolution and for the right direction. They did a lot of good work in Sea of Tragic Beasts, and I feel like they're continuing to do so now. This album, I feel, is amazing. Like I can't really fault it in any way possible. I feel like Joe's vocals are getting better. Just the way that they all play together, it's just like magic. You know, there's no sort of bad directions that they're going in. Like they all, everything seems to flow really well. I love the theme of the album. So for me, it'd be probably a 4 out of 5.
I rated mine out of 10.
Okay, well you can. Okay, right. I'll do if we're gonna do it out of 10. I'd probably say a 9 out of 10.
Right, 9 out of 10.
Yep.
So like, I feel like overall for me, I feel like it's definitely a really fun listen. I definitely enjoyed it. And I think there's a lot going for it as a release. However, there's like just a few gripes of kind of how I have with the album. And I don't like to be overly negative, but there's like a couple things that this is obviously my own personal opinion. Like obviously there's
Yep.
gonna be people that think differently on it, but I feel like a lot of the songs sort of followed a very similar structure, sort of all the way out. Like you sort of had the, opening chorus, like early chorus, breakdown, another chorus, breakdown. And for me, like, it will very it kind of became repetitive listening to it. Like I enjoyed what I was listening to, but there's a couple cases where I'm like, I wish they would have put like a few more like little different sort of snippets in them, or a few more little different songs in there. Like maybe I had a completely slow song in the middle to sort of break it up a little bit better. And I feel like there was like just it was very formulaic in a way. And I can't help but to also think of A Sea of Tragic Beasts when listening to this album, obviously because it was the previous album, and I feel like the way that I feel like I knew that A Sea of Tragic Beasts would be really hard for him to top because it was such a monumental album for him. It really showed how the progression, like you could see that from the album before that, with like songs like Hydra and stuff and stuff like that, where there was like some more there that they were going for. And I feel like A Sea of Tragic Beast was like the sort of like, this is what we are. And for me, like with this one, I just don't feel like it's as good as Sea of Tragic Beast. I feel like in the terms of this new direction they're going to, it's a good step, but I wish they would have tried a few more like other options. I feel like they kind of played it safe a little bit. Like I feel like with Sea of Tragic Beast, they really went for it. And there was a lot of songs that entire album where you could listen to them as singles and listen to them on their own. And they didn't feel like there was a lot of throwaway sort of songs. But in this one, I find myself thinking there's like a few more throwaway songs where I'm like, that's a bit of a filler. That's a bit of a filler. Overall, I do think it's a good album, but I feel like there could have been a few more things thrown in there and a few more risks taken. And it was the same gripe. It was the same gripe I had for Whitechapel's album. I feel like they both, Whitechapel and Fit for an Autopsy, both released those two albums, and it completely changed the perspective I had on deathcore and of their sounds. But I feel like the follow-up album after that was just kind of like a in-between sort of thing, where it's not, they weren't fully going for it, but they were holding and they were holding back. So with that in mind, for me, I'd have to rate it about a 7 out of 10. Simply because there's just a few gripes and a few things that I personally would have preferred to see obviously that's just my own opinion. I know that a lot of people really enjoy this album, and I will say it's a very fun album to listen to. But those were just a few gripes I had.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, that's Fit for an Autopsy's what the future holds. If see what you think of it, let us know in the comments if you liked it or you disliked it. Good direction for Fit for an Autopsy. Glad to see that they're still producing good music. Obviously, like and subscribe if you want to see more. We'll be back next week. We've got a lot of plans for this year, so wait and see what's to come. And we're also on Patreon, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. Don't forget, we are on Patreon. So if you like the podcast and you want to support it, you can subscribe. It's only £5 a month. We'll throw up a little sort of screen on here on what you get for it. But yeah, it's always linked down in the description as well. So yeah, if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, make sure that you can follow that link and join the Headbangers crew.
Absolutely. So yeah, catch you next time.